web application configuration topics. Okay, so before starting a web application penetration testing or a bug bounty, we should have to learn the configurations of a web application, because not in the all the time there is a chance for bug in a developer set. Sometimes even developers securely make that application, but if the administrator not properly configured or not properly hosted the application, so there also we can able to find the vulnerability. Okay, so why I'm telling is, instead of searching vulnerability in a code or application wise, you need to check the application configuration wise, because in a configuration wise it may be it may be some errors that will leads to the big exploitation also. Okay, so that is why we have to focus on application developing part and hosting part, configuration part. So here there is a general web application configuration topics are there, we will see it now. The very first thing we are going to see the HTTP method. So I'll tell you what is HTTP method. In a request, okay, in a request header we can able to find the HTTP methods. Okay, so generally we are sending a request to the server and we receiving a response from the server. So while sending the request, what kind of request we are sending to the application, so this is belongs to the HTTP methods. Okay, so generally we are sending a request to the server, but what kind of request it may be. Okay, it may be a put request, delete request, get request, option request, post method. Okay, so what kind of request method it goes. Okay, it is due to the business logic. Okay, for example, if you are generally requesting the application, it will be goes in the get request. So what is a get request means, you are getting you need some data from the server. Okay, if you are downloading a data, if you are refreshing the page, if you are going with a new page, then it goes by the get method. Okay, so this get method is a very general method of web application HTTP method. Okay, so even if you're refreshing the page, you are going with a new page, or you are going to download some data, that will be goes in the form of get request. Okay, get method. And next one is post method. So while you are giving any input to the application, okay, if you are making a sign up, you are making a login, or if you are uploading any files to the application, that will be goes in the post method. Okay, the general method going, that the request will be going in the main of get method. And if you are giving any data into the application, okay, if you are making a login or a sign up or uploading file, that will be goes as a post method to the application. So once after get post, uh, there are some many methods, or like a head method. So in head method, all the data will be passing through the header itself. Okay, in head method all the data will be passed through the header itself. And trace method, so using this trace method we can able to see how the data are passing through the how the data are passing into the application, what are all the methods by the data is passing to the application. This is actually trace method will do. And there is some dangerous method also that, like delete method and put method. So this delete and put method is not a, it is not recommended a good security policy to implement in the application, because if that application is accepting for a put method, anyone can able to put any malicious file into the server. Okay, so using put method, attacker can able to put the malicious PHP file or exe file into the server. So this is possible by put method. And using a delete method, attackers can able to delete the internal resource of the application. For example, if the delete method is enabled, using the delete method, attackers can delete the internal files also. Okay, so that is why it is not recommended to enable the put method and delete method in the application. And next one is options method. Okay, so using options method, we can able to see what are all the methods will be enabled in this application. So either the generally get method, put method, sorry, generally get, post, patch will be enabled in the application. By using this options method, we can able to see what are all the HTTP methods they enable in the application. So from that we can able to say that the application is accepting for a delete method or a put method or anything. This is generally a method. Okay, so HTTP method is nothing but a concept. Okay, so how we are requesting to the server, what kind of request we are sending to the server. So this is belongs to the HTTP method. So if you are generally searching for some data or refreshing page, or generally if you need something, that will be goes in the get method. if you're giving any data to the application, okay, so that will be goes under post method. Like if you are making a sign up, if you are making a login or uploading the fold files, so you are giving some input data to the application, so in that time it goes in the post method. Okay, so this head and patch, I'll tell you more about in a practical. While seeing in practical, I'll tell you more about these methods also. And next one is options. Okay, so using options method, we can able to see what are all the HTTP methods are enabled in the application, or what are the HTTP methods does the application is accepting using options method. And the two unusual methods are a put method and delete method. If the put method is enabled in the application, using this attacker can able to put any malicious file into the server. Okay, and if this delete method is enabled in the application, using this delete method, attacker can able to delete the internal resource of the application also. So this is generally a HTTP methods. And after HTTP methods, we have to be clear with the response code also. Okay, so sometimes, not a sometimes, many times you have faced in the code like a 404 not found. So what does actually the 404 not found means? Resources not available. Okay, so there are more than 20 web application status codes are there. Even if you can't able to remember all the 20 http status codes, but we have to remember the series. For example, if the status code comes under 100 series, then what it may be. If the status code comes under 200 series, then what it may be, like 300 series, 400 series, 500 series. Okay, this HTTP method we can able to see in the request, and the status code we see in a response. Okay, once we are getting a response from that application, so along with the response, the status code also, application sends the status code also. Okay, so the status code in 100 series, it will be information. So what information means, we are sending a request to the server and our request is still under processing, not completed. So in that time we get the 100 based status code. Okay, 100 series status code, it may be 100 or 101. Okay, so if we getting any 100 series status code means that is information, which is we are sending a request to the server and server is processing our request, still is processing our request, not completed. So that time we get 100 series status code. And next one is 200 based status code. Okay, so these 200 based status code are success status code. If we get any status code in the 200 series, that is success, which means we send a request to the application and we receive the response from the application also. So that time we'll get the 200 based status code. Okay, and 300 based status codes are generally used for a redirection. Okay, so especially if there is any 300, if there is a 301 status code, 301 status code means, that means it is a temporary redirection. If it is a 303, then it's a permanent redirection. But generally the 300 series is used for a redirection. So if we get a status code in the form of 300 series, then it means there is a redirection is occur. And next one is 400 based status code. So this 400 based status code are generally it is a client based status code or client side status code. So who is the client? We are the client. Okay, so if we are finding a 400 based status code means that is client side error. So our side error, for example, if we get 404 means the resource what we are looking in the application is not available. Okay, so resource what we are looking in the application is not available. In that time we get the 404 404 not found error. Okay, so what about 401 status code? So generally 401 status code is unauthorized and 403 is for a forbidden. Okay, so if we get a 401 status code, then means the resources available, but we doesn't have the access to, but we doesn't have the access to get the data. So that time we'll get the 400 base status code, 401 based status code. So generally if it is a 400 base series means that is a client side error, which is our side error. And 500 based status code, so if we getting a status code in a 500 series, then it is a server side error. For example, if we get a 501, the server is not available. 502 means server is not available. Okay, or it is under maintenance, either server may be down. So in this case we get the 500 based status code. Now this is a simple HTTP request. Okay, so we see it in a image now, and once after this we see it in a practical by today itself, because we are going to discuss about tool burp shoot in today's session itself. In that I'll completely teach you how the request is originated, how the response is coming, everything. Okay, so this is a simple HTTP request. So in this request, the first line is a request line. Okay, first line is a request line, and the rest these lines are the request headers, and this is the space which separating request header and request body. Okay, the first line is request line. So in request line you can able to see what kind of HTTP method it is. Okay, so it generally a get method, and here you can able to see the URI. Okay, here you can able to see the URI. So in this test 101.com 101.com domain, they are going with this URI slash document and slash test.html page. Okay, so generally request having three headers. Okay, so request line, request header, and request body. So in request line we can able to see the HTTP method. So what kind of method this request is going on, and next we can able to see the URI of the application. And in the request header, first we can able to see the host name or domain name. Okay, so this is host parameter. We can able to see this request is belongs to which domain. Okay, and these are all the very general things. And after this, in a body you can able to see the contents. For example, if you are getting, if you are passing any data, that will be goes in a body. Okay, in best security mechanism you can please note it down now. Okay, in best security mechanism, if you are making a login, then what happen, instead of get method it will be goes in a post method. But most of the application getting user value, okay, login in post method, and the data will be passing in the header itself. Okay, so data will be passed in the request header itself. It is not a good security practice. So if you are giving any sensitive data like a login or a sign up, that time the login credentials have to be passed in the body of the request only. So I'll tell you why it is a best security mechanism to pass the login data in a body, everything in a session. Okay, so this is generally a HTTP response. This is how HTTP response will look like. So in HTTP response, the first one is a status line or a response line, and this is a response header, and this is response body. Okay, so don't get confused, or if you do not getting this, we'll see everything practically by today itself. Okay, so before that, we just introduce this image. So in this first line of response, this is a status line or a response line. We can able to see the response code here. Okay, so status code here, it is a 200. Okay, so which is, it is a proper request. It is a proper success request. We send the request to the server and we receive the response. So why it is showing the 200 based status code. Okay, and in a response you can able to see the time, date at all, and next it's showing you the Apache server and version. So if it is a good application, you don't have to disclose the Apache server and version. Okay, so this is, disclosing the server and version is not a good security practice, because that may leads to the big attack. I'll tell you what happened through this. Okay, so generally this will be passing in the response, and in the response body only the HTML script will be passing. Okay, from the response only the HTML code of the application will be getting passed. So this is how the basic HTTP request and response look like.